Hello everybody, it's your boy. How you doing? Welcome, one and all. I was going to go live slightly bit earlier, like a minute, but Amazon arrived for a parcel and I had to go and collect it, unfortunately. But hey, at least I'm on time. Am I right, guys? So anyway, today's stream is going to be about Greater Manchester, because for those of you who are not from Manchester, maybe some of you who aren't even from the United Kingdom, or even Europe, you might want to know what the hell is going on, if you've ever heard about what is going on, because it's been all in the news, at least in British media, for the past couple of weeks now, where there's been a battleground between the Tory government and the ostensibly Labour-dominated boroughs of Greater Manchester, though I imagine maybe some of the more Tory places, like I think Lee, maybe parts of Wigan, Altrincham, places like that, maybe also rebelling, but I am not so sure. I've not heard anything about that so far, but we will get into some of the articles that may address some of that stuff. This is completely improvised, by the way. I have done cursory skim throughs to make sure I have a general gist about what the hell has been going on, because it is confusing being on the ground, let alone reading the news. So I'm going to try and inform people as best I can as to what is going on, and maybe I will learn something alongside you guys, because there's some things you need to know, not only about the two sides and Manchester and what's been going on with COVID, but also you'll need to know what this might entail for all of us that are living here, and what it might entail for you in the future, because if you think it's going to happen in Liverpool and Lancashire, apparently, it's going to happen here too. And it's going to happen to you, because, well, apparently there's going to be some kind of failsafe, or whatever they call it, on the 23rd of October. So anyway, I'm going to wait for a few people to get in. I do need to chill the stream out a bit more so that people know that I'm actually live, and then we'll get into it. So anyway, as those of you who know, I am from Manchester, currently living in Salford, which is the twin city of Manchester. It is essentially, Salford is an island surrounded by Manchester, kind of. I think. I don't know. That's what somebody from Salford once told me. So it's only an island in the sense that there's a river, then there's another river, and then there's a load of canals. So I am a native, born and raised pretty much, and some of you can tell by the accent, others can't, because I don't have a particularly thick Manc accent. But then again, I'm not from the north and the east, where they all sound like that, Manchester. Not everybody sounds like that around here, but it is what it is. So yeah, you can. I've been trying to talk to people about stuff. I've been in the thick of it, shall we say, since the lockdown was eased. I work in retail, and somehow, miraculously, despite working in a job and in a very big place, talking to and interacting with hundreds of people every week, somehow I don't have coronavirus. I've not even had it. I've not really gotten ill. I've had maybe a few colds, a few stomach aches, joints aching, things like that, but no flu. I've not had the flu in years. Is that luck? Is that a great immune system? Is it my age? Who knows? I'm 26, by the way. I have no idea. All I know is I've not had it. I don't even know people who have had it. Maybe I know people who've had it, but I myself do not know anybody who's actually caught the disease. Again, talk about luck, eh, guys? So, just so you know, I don't have personal experience with the actual disease, as far as I'm aware. If there was somebody who was asymptomatic near me, I would never have known anyway, but apparently I didn't catch it off them, so, I'm lucky in that regard. Again. But it affected my family and me in a rather different way than maybe some other people. I can't go any further than that, but let's just say it's pretty dark, and don't worry, it could have been a hell of a lot worse. And it wasn't anything to do with me per se, but a member of my family, but don't worry, everything is fine as of anyway. So no need to worry about me or the person, it's fine. So, do you want me to get into the story then, what's been going on. So a little bit of background information for you all about Manchester itself, because I think I need to tell you about Manchester and what its relation is with the rest of the country, because a lot of that has been used for rhetoric. So Manchester is, I mean, I don't know, we have an inflated opinion of ourselves, like most cities in the world, but it's an inflated sense that has a lot of historical backing to it. We've done a lot of stuff in our time. We were the first city, pretty much, as far as I can tell, that industrialised. Cottonopolis pretty much spearheaded the Industrial Revolution, the first part of it anyway, during the 19th century. We have not just been involved in industrial stuff and the building of the railways. The first proper steam railway line from Manchester to Liverpool was built in Manchester. You can still go there and visit and even ride on it. And not only that, we have a very proud cultural and economic history. Free trade was practically invented in this city, or at the very least it was tried out anyway. A certain Richard Cobden, for those of you who may be aware of him, was an MP here and lived here. And the person who founded the police was, although not a Manchester local, he was not a Manchester native. He was from a satellite town called Bury. Robert Peel, also a PM. He came from here, essentially, the area. And it was Cobden that signed the first ever free trade deal in history between Britain and France. And then fast forward that, Mancunians were involved in all the world wars, and the atom, at least, or at the very least, I think the theory to split the atom was first formalised in the University of Manchester. I think they may actually have done it. I think Lord Rutherford did it in Manchester, not too far from where I live. Spooky, and that was in the 1920s. And then, of course, in the mid to late 20th century, we were a kind of sleeping giant in terms of being a musical force, like a cultural force for the world. New Order, Oasis, Stone Roses, the Bee Gees originally came from Manchester, although, of course, they didn't form the band here, but they're counted as such. I used to live near their primary school, believe it or not. What else? Joy Division, that's technically New Order. Happy Mondays. House music was brought over from America to Britain via Manchester and the Hacienda, which was the first super club in Europe. We've been in the forefront of things, although obviously it's been offset by poverty and social engineering. Hume and Moorside and loads of other inner city areas were destroyed by the best of intentions with social planning, with the whole brutalist architecture and things like that. Yep, that happened here. But it created great music, though. And now recently, we've had a bit of an upstage. Have more of an upturn. The regeneration has been largely led by private means. And not only that, we've become a media powerhouse. The BBC, ITV, Channel 4, everybody has moved all the way up here. Not Manchester technically, although it's called the Manchester Ship Canal. That's something I also forgot to mention. They've moved to Salford Quays because it's cheaper than London, and it seems to me that we're becoming an economic powerhouse once again, at the very least on a local level. I don't know about a global level like we were back in the day, but Manchester is for sure not a city to be underestimated. You can say what you want about Birmingham. I'm not taking I'm sorry, Odin, but do you not feel pride in your culture, in your city, in your town or village, or in your country? If not, don't rain on my parade. I'm proud of being a Mancunian. I'm proud of being British. I have nothing to say to you about that. So anyway. We are technically the second city of the United Kingdom. Regardless of what anybody says, we are the second city. We are probably the richest city in the north. We are actually statistically the second richest city in the UK. So this is what informs a lot of what's been going on. A lot of it is to do with money. Now, fast forward to the lockdown. What the hell is going on? Well, it started off, obviously, in spring, where the United Kingdom, initially, after hearing word of the Wu flu coming out of China, Britain had a little bit more time than everybody else to prepare. we are an island nation. It is a little bit harder for a disease to cross the channel to us, but we knew it was coming. Now, the Tories initially wanted to go down the Sweden route and use herd immunity. That caused an outrage amongst the British people. And not only that, this created such a panic amongst the people in Westminster that they quickly U-turned. And of course, they decided to double down hard on. Well, not double down. They decided to change course and go full-on lockdown, a la Italy, Spain, certain United US states, pretty much most of Europe and the world. We went into full lockdown, so you couldn't go to the pub, you couldn't go visit your family. That didn't stop people from doing it anyway, as long as they social distanced. But of course, the police were itching to use these newfound powers of theirs. But nonetheless, it happened. And then it was slowly eased during late summer. And then, we didn't have a particularly good summer either, by the way. It was a very cool summer, very wet. It wasn't very good. It wasn't ideal to defeat the coronavirus. It wasn't hot enough. Sorry about that, it's my phone. Now, anyway, that happened. As lockdowns were eased, suddenly coronavirus statistics started to go up, but at the very least, the rate of people catching it, or at least being recorded as catching it, increased exponentially. Are we in the second wave, or are we just really good at diagnosing it and recording it? I don't know. I do know that last month or month before last, there was a news item where they basically mischaracterized 5,000 deaths as a corona, when actually it was not corona, it was something else entirely. And then Manchester was not allowed to come out of full lockdown completely. This is before the 3-tier system, which we'll get into. A lot of other cities and areas were as well, but because of what was going on in, I think, Bolton initially and other areas like that, we couldn't go out of full lockdown like the rest of the other cities could. So London is not in lockdown, Birmingham isn't in lockdown, Leicester was put back in lockdown I think a few months ago. And that's what's been causing a lot of the issues. Now, as you all know, there was a furlough scheme where the government essentially borrowed billions of pounds to pay companies to pay people like me to not work. And that is another thing that informs the current spat between the Greater Manchester, at very least Andy Burnham, and the United Kingdom government. Now, who is Andy Burnham? Andy Burnham is, to be fair, some people consider him to be a non-entity, kind of like, he's not really relevant. He's kind of just there. Other people that I've met who are familiar with Manchester view him as like the Sadiq Khan of the North. I personally don't think he's as bad as Sadiq Khan. He is a leftist, but he's a bit more Blairite than Sadiq Khan is. But I don't want him to be mayor, obviously. But this is Andy Burnham. He is. I'll just show this before I do anything. How can I forget my window? So there you go. This is Andy Burnham. He's not a Mancunian native. I mean, how many MPs actually are natives of Manchester? Lucy Powell is, but she's not the mayor. He's originally from Liverpool. And to cut a long story short, yeah, he was once a rising New Labour star. He's one of the more moderate members. So he's not quite Sadiq Khan, but again, moderate Labour, it's not saying much, is it? They're pretty left-wing. And, he used to be an MP in other places, and then he came to Manchester, and then he was the MP for Lee, I believe, or Wigan, one of them two. And then he ran for mayor, and he got elected, I think, a couple of years ago. I think it was about 2015, 2017, something like that. And since then, he's been the mayor, and let's just say it's not been all sunshine and rainbows. Now, I don't know about his cultural impact. I have no idea what's going on. It's not something that's reported on much. And because I am not I don't have a network in Manchester that can tell me all these things, because it's mostly left-wing here and there's not many red-pilled people around who can tell me these things. All I can see is the economic situation and some other things that are impacting me on my daily life. As far as I'm aware, we're not quite London yet, but areas of Manchester are obviously heading down that path, and it's not a good look, obviously. But by and large, he has had so many weird and interesting problems. He has had issues with paying, I think, builders. I think he's been contracting a lot of building work around Manchester and Salford and places like that, just to build anything from fixing roads. I mean, you think it's good. It's good on paper and it's good in theory, but it's the way they're going about it, and I'll explain it. To apartments, just everything. And it's causing mayhem in Manchester. Basically, traffic has gone up, costs are rising, and Corona hasn't helped that either. And not only that, I think a few months before lockdown, in fact, a few months before coronavirus, he couldn't even pay them, or he refused to pay them because something happened. I don't know, something weird. Basically, he spent too much money, and they were arguing about money. So it's not been good. Yes, a Liverpudlian in charge of Manchester is absolutely outrageous, although thankfully he's not Joe Anderson. And I think, actually, if I think about it, he's probably not from Liverpool. I think he's a Woolly. I think he's from the Wirral. I'm actually just going to double check that because I don't want to insult the Scousers in calling somebody who might not be a true Scouser a Scouser. So I'm just going to double check. It may actually be from Liverpool itself, but I don't know. Let's have a look. He is from... No, he's from Aintree. Yeah, he's from Liverpool. He's not a Woolly. He's a full-on Scouse. As far as I'm aware, anyway. I only know one area I know several areas. I know two areas. I know Toxteth, and I know Fazakerley, because Toxteth is where the riots in the 80s happened, and Fazakerley is where an old friend of mine from uni came from. And I like the way that they pronounce Fazakerley. Fazakerley! It's like an old Anglo-Saxon name. Fazakerley. But he doesn't sound like that, by the way. Although you can clearly tell he's from Merseyside. So, anyway, that's Andy Burnham. Not the greatest mayor, but he's in a safe seat. He's going to get re-elected in 2021, come the mayoral elections. Keep the mayoral elections in mind, guys, because that will inform the rest of this stream. Now, COVID increases. We're essentially in a second wave. I think it's essentially, I think for the sake of argument we are. I've looked at the statistics. I will show you the statistics. These are live statistics, by the way. So, anyway, let's just have a look at these. So these are Manchester. Actually, I might just refresh that to make sure that it's the right ones. Look. Pretty much a second wave, or at the very least, we're just very good at cataloguing it now. I don't know. We're very good at testing. It could just be more testing. In my opinion, that could be a hell of a lot worse. The fact it's not even reached like 1,000 or anything like that is pretty damn good. Obviously, we've had 15,000 in total. 300 odd, I think that's the average. And and depending on the day, we're either at average or below average for the rest of I think that's the rest of the country. The blue line, it doesn't tell you. It's not very specific. This is Trafford. And Trafford is very much up and down. Sometimes it's above average, sometimes it's below average. And here's Salford. There's other boroughs as well, but I can't get through them all. See, sometimes it shoots up, sometimes it shoots down. Sometimes it doesn't, it's all over the place. Sometimes we have good days, sometimes we have bad days. But apparently this is so bad that it warrants going into tier 3 lockdown. So what are these tiers? What are the COVID tiers that they've been talking about? Now, where's that thing? These are the tier systems. Actually, this is the wrong article. Sorry about that, guys. Here we are. So these are the tiers. This is essentially an improvised law. The government has been improvising everything since the moment coronavirus hit this country. That's what they've been doing. Now, tier 1 is medium threat. So I suppose tier 0 is low threat. Why does it go from medium high to very high? Surely it should be tier 1 is low threat, tier 2 is medium threat, tier 3 is high, and tier 4 should be very high, right? But no, you go straight in there, medium. typical authoritarian bullshit from the Tories there. So we have a rule of 6, indoors or outdoors, which means a gathering or group of no more than 6 people can be allowed at any one time in parks and places like that. How the hell they've been able to do this? How they can enforce this rule? I don't know, considering Manchester's a big place. I don't know. Pubs and restaurants shut at 10 p.m. Then tier 2, no household mixing indoors. Rule of 6 will apply outdoors. Pubs and restaurants are shut at 10 p.m. And that's essentially where I think we were, anyway. And then tier 3, no household mixing indoors or outdoors in hospitality venues or private gardens. Yes, even a private garden, when you might even be in a bubble, a family-like bubble. Rule of 6 applies in indoor public spaces like parks. Let me put that in perspective. Manchester's biggest park is a cross between Plattfields and Heaton Park. I can't remember exactly which one is bigger. Even in big areas like that, where you could be yards apart from anybody, that still applies. You know, in Plattfields, we have our biggest music festival, Parklife. How are you going to... You don't need a Rule of 6 law there. That doesn't even make sense. It's such a big park, that's unnecessary. People can well avoid each other. It's not hard. But anyway, whatever. Logic doesn't go into it. Pubs and bars not serving meals will be closed, and guidance against travelling in and out of the area. So we're essentially quarantined from the rest of the... Essentially, we're quarantined from the rest of the country now. For however long the government want us to stay in there anyway. And today it was announced that Manchester, despite everything that's been going on, we are now going into lockdown. But how did we get to that? Well, it was because of the law that came in that created these tier systems that really angered Andy Burnham all of a sudden. Andy Burnham suddenly became a man of the people and was decrying the government lockdowns. Now, where's the one that I have where he was saying that he need that I'm trying to find it now. Where is it? Aha, god damn it, I may have read it and got rid of it. So basically, he became a man of the people. You may have seen his speech. He had a speech where he was saying that he wasn't going to back down. He wasn't going to allow Tier 3 to be put in place in Greater Manchester, and he was going to fight for people's jobs, their homes, and their economic livelihood. That's essentially what he wanted to do. Now, why all of a sudden was he doing that when literally in September he was slamming the government handling of the local lockdowns and saying it was illogical? And he also said to residents of Bolton and Trafford, when their rates were actually declining because the government was slowly lifting lockdowns during this time, to ignore these government liftings and to stay indoors, not go to work or whatever. Ignore it. Don't do it. So he was okay with lockdowns in September when the Tories were lifting lockdowns, but now that they're reimposing lockdowns, he has an issue with it. Hypocrisy much? Well, people will have short memories, especially when it comes to people that they're going to be voting for anyway. Yeah, he's doing this for the mayoral elections. This is what me and my mum have basically gathered. He's doing this because in May there's going to be the elections, and he wants to look good once all of this is passed. So he's been out there, he was out in front of the library, declaring to the world, declaring to Britain and Boris and all the other people who cared to talk about how he wasn't going to back down. He was going to fight for the people of Manchester, and we weren't going to get into Tier 3, and he was going to protect us. And in fact, he was going to get a good deal. There was going to be negotiations, and they were going to negotiate, and he was going to get a good deal for us. He was going to get us a lot of money to cover in case of a lockdown, because his rationale for that is that potentially pubs will be, of course, affected. They will be affected. In fact, according to Yahoo News, up to 1,809 pubs will be hit by the new lockdown measures that have just been put in place. And he was really angry about all of this. Oh, that's in October. We don't need that one. And there was even leaks that were going on, apparently. Matt Hancock has to do an inquiry because information was being reported about Greater Manchester moving into tier 3 lockdown. Now, essentially, what was happening was Burnham wanted about 65 to 66 million pounds to cover, I think, however long they're saying that we're going to be in tier 3 lockdown. Because in his opinion, this is what I've been reading, is in one of these articles somewhere, the homeless, the people who will be put on furlough, the people who need the money for anything like social services and things like that, they're going to be affected, and he's worried, apparently, allegedly, that these people are going to be put further into poverty. They're going to have further problems, as you would expect, because they're essentially shutting down a local economy. And he wants to make sure that he gets his Gibbs, and that these people are apparently going to be safe and sound with all this £65 million. But of course, he's a Labour politician. He's practically a socialist, and not only that, he's a demagogue. How much of this money the people of Greater Manchester are actually going to see, I don't know. Now, negotiations had a deadline at 12 p.m. today, and there was an impasse. But Burnham was unwilling to compromise. He was unwilling to back down. I mean, fair play, I guess. I would have been probably just as hot-headed, just as stubborn as him, because I'm anti-lockdown, as some of you may know. But I thought to myself, you've basically played yourself into a corner here. You've made yourself look stupid, because now you've negotiated yourself into an impasse, and well, the Prime Minister's realised, hang on, I'm the Prime Minister, England is not devolved, Greater Manchester is not a devolved area, although Burnham wants the cities in England to be devolved so that they become like mini fiefdoms to the mayors. But that's not going to happen anytime soon. I'm just going to slap down a lockdown anyway. There you go, Burnham. Go and look like a fool. And you're not going to get your £65 million. You're going to get about, I think it was £22 million, somewhere in that region. There it is there. We're going to move into tier 3 anyway, and we're going to receive 22 million, which is roughly the same as Liverpool and Lancashire got. Well done. Golf clap, guys. Press F in the chat for Burnham. But all of this was just a show anyway. It was a show. All he was doing, Burnham, was just trying to appear like a man of the people for the mayoral elections, because he's an unpopular mayor, at least he was at the time. I don't know what his polling is going to be in the next couple of weeks. I imagine it's going to be pretty high, because people are going to be looking at it and thought, wow, he's fighting the silly, ridiculous lockdown laws. Wow, I'm voting for this guy. He's got it. He's got my back, when he doesn't have your back. He doesn't. He's a Labour politician. The only back he has is himself and the parties, and maybe some of the groups that are paying him to, represent them, really, the lobby, whoever's lobbying him. So, that's essentially what has been going on. And as far as I'm aware, there is, talking to people, overhearing people in public, people don't like the lockdown. I can safely say that. We do not like it. At least I don't like it, and I know a lot of people don't like it. They were okay with the initial lockdown because they thought, well, it had to be done. A lot of people saying, this is an unprecedented situation that we're in. We didn't really know what we were dealing with. But they don't get why all the pubs, well, at least when the lockdown was initially eased, and then suddenly was until suddenly it was reinstated, why you could go to the pub in these new restrictions. You can go to the pub until 10 p.m, but you can't visit your family. You can go to the shop, but you can't go and see your friends, or go to the park with a large group of mates, because apparently you need about 6 people. Even though I'm pretty sure that I've been in my shop that I work at with about 20 odd people and or whatever. Shops are allowed a bit more people, I guess. I don't really know how the Rule of Six works. It's only for specific areas, and like I've been okay. I'm lucky. Yeah, Heaton Park is massive, and they have a Rule of Six for that. And yes, the actual death rate is on powered seasonal flu, but we're just getting a lot of people. But I don't know if that's just down to testing or not. And what I've been trying to explain this to people is well, in World War One, loads of men in 1914 during the outbreak of war were killed because of head injuries. They were dying, or at the very least, there was loads of men dying as a result of shrapnel, things like that, right? So there was a 70-80% likelihood that you're going to get killed because all you had on your head was a cap. It was a cloth/leather cap. And the Germans, although they looked like they were wearing steel helmets, those spiked helmets, they were made of leather. they weren't going to protect you from shrapnel. And so the British and the Germans and the French all introduced steel helmets. And what happened to the British casualty rates? Well, it went from 70% deaths, or at least 70% chance of dying, to 70% chance of injuries and then 70% increase in head injuries. And oh, what the hell? What's going on? Oh my god. They started panicking and thinking, why are we getting an increase in head injuries? Until one boffin realised, hang on a sec, guys. The steel helmets are doing their damn jobs. Don't panic. It's okay. These people will be put back into action if they're fit enough to do so. Don't worry about it. And thus steel helmets remained in service for 100 years. And that to me is what's going on. It's been several months now. We know what the virus is capable of. We know how to test for it. And I think we're just getting a lot of people testing. There's more people are willing to go out and be tested for the slightest thing. Like people go even when they've got colds or sore throats, not corona, or they've just got normal seasonal flu and they're getting tested. There might be a few false positives, but a lot of positives are being found because people they want to know, don't they? And I imagine some people who are asymptomatic but perhaps are ill for some reason, they get tested, they get put on there. Now maybe some people who ought not to be put on there are also on there. Remember, let's have a look at the chat. So Burnham has so much principle, he's prepared to take the £15 million a month, so the Tories are calculating 4 to 6 months of shutdown rather than having principle. Yeah, essentially. And he's been going on about the North-South divide, apparently, and that's not something I've been able to see. So he's going about, up here in the North, and it is true, to some extent, we're treated badly compared to the South. We're poorer, we've got all these issues, even though Manchester's the second richest city in the United Kingdom, but whatever. With this, with that, and the other. Yeah, he rents or owns something like a 500 grand apartment in London, even though he doesn't go to Westminster, as far as I'm aware. He's the mayor of Manchester. He's not an MP. I don't know if mayors go down to Westminster to vote or not, unless he's part of the shadow cabinet. I don't know, but yeah, it's hypocritical, isn't it? Although I don't know, whatever. Own or rent whatever property you want. Yeah, he has no power to defy the government. This is the thing. It's a empty virtue signal, as Teabag says. He technically does not have the power. He's not like a Nicola Sturgeon or the Welsh First Minister or the First Minister of Northern Ireland. Again, there's only so much they can do, but they're actual First Ministers. They can actually challenge the Prime Minister because they have the power somewhat to do so. He's not. He's just a mayor with a jumped up ego, like we all do in Manchester. We're all a bit egotistical here. I'm not gonna lie. Am I ready to watch United get smashed? Not yet. I'm streaming at the moment. Yes, it's been Labour that was in power for the last decade, and Labour that caused Brexit. Well, they didn't cause Brexit. I mean, maybe they helped sow the seeds in the 80s by, recommending that we have Brexit. Oh, so many leftists are quick to brush that under the rug. How's the death rate looking? How's hospitalisation due to COVID looking? There's fuck all. Yeah. I mean, I keep hearing that Salford is pretty bad. Salford Central Hospital, whatever it's called. I don't know. I live near that too. But when I look at the cases, There's no way it could be heaving, like I've been told. There's no way. It doesn't make sense. I'm not actually trying to compare anything. I'm trying to actually just get some context in there. I may have accidentally compared it, but that was not my intention. Where's all the dead bodies at the BL? I'm sure loads of people had it, but they're fine because we're all young. So we don't know the CFR in April. We don't do testing to know how many cases there were. Yeah, we don't know, but they've said that they may have mistested 5,000 people. I don't know about Liverpool, but there was one in Manchester and it wasn't particularly big. Well, the Manchester BLM protest wasn't that big. It was nowhere near the scale of London. I've seen the pictures of it. I've seen the video. I didn't go down there myself, unfortunately. I think I was working, but I saw the videos on Twitter. It was nowhere near as big as the London one, and as far as I'm aware, there was no rioting. Now, maybe it was bigger than I initially thought, but I don't think the BLM protests have much to do with the Manchester one. I honestly think that it's more to do with just the fact we're a heavily populated area. There's like a couple 100,000 people in Manchester alone, but then in the actual county, Greater Manchester. Oh, sorry, AGC, apologies. There's about 2.35 million people, something like that. I will watch your video, Teabag. I like a little bit of Cold Case. So anyway, I think that's pretty much everything. I can't think of anything else to say other than don't trust Andy Burnham. If you're from Manchester, you should vote him out because the guy's a demagogue. He hasn't got your best interests in heart. He only interests in himself. He's only interested in himself. He's only interested in his party because he wants his own little fiefdom. He wants what a lot of American mayors and state governors have. You know, he wants Manchester to be like Detroit or London, where Sadiq Khan can rule over it for 2 terms and just do whatever he wants and mess it up forever. That's what he wants. He wants to be the king of Manchester, essentially. And do you want that man to have all that power? No, you don't. And you don't want this guy leading you either, because he's proven that he can't even negotiate properly. He's a terrible politician, terrible diplomat. And not only that, he was a failed health minister. For those of you who love the NHS, I don't. He's been accused. I've got an article here somewhere. Where is that? I think it's this one, where he was health minister in 2009, where he claimed he was punished for loyalty because apparently he was increasing the role of private companies, which is to me not a bad thing, but to you lot you may think that's a bad thing. And essentially, what we're seeing here is just a continuation of that. Crap at anything to do with health. In fact, I don't think that's even his background. Like, what did he grad? Yeah, he did English at Cambridge. Is this the type of person you want to be leading this city, this area? Is this the type of person that you want as your mayor? No, you don't. And you don't want people like Rebecca Long Daly, and you don't want people like Lucy Powell or whoever else. You want actual politicians who can negotiate with the government to get us a fair deal and to get us out of the tier 3. But unfortunately, the guy was so stubborn and arrogant and thinking he could stand up to power, you know, speak the truth to the power. Put us in tier 3 anyway, because Boris is Boris. He's the Prime Minister. He can do what he wants to the people of England. Can't do it as much in Scotland, but he can do it to us. Remember that, guys. He's a damp squib, and he can't do anything. Even if he did have your best interests at heart, there's no way he would be able to actually do anything for them because he's incompetent. Anyway, I'm going to carry on for a couple more minutes, try and maybe get it to 45 minutes. I'll take questions from the chat, maybe, and talk about other things that have gone on, but I have to get going soon and prepare for other things. I think I need to do some chores. I know it's pretty late now. But anyway, thank you all for turning up. I've had quite a few people watching, so that's good. So I hope that this was somewhat educational. This was a very improvised stream. I was largely going off on personal experience and what's been going on in the news. But essentially, we're going into tier 3 lockdown. Now, as far as I'm aware, it does not affect retail. So retail is going to be fine in Manchester, Liverpool, and Lancashire. And we're going to essentially have to deal with Christmas. I don't know how we're going to do it, but we're going to do it. Now, here's an observation that I've made. Now, I don't know if any of you, and I'm still a novice at economics, but what do you guys think when you think of an economy? Most of you will probably think of, it's bonfire night next month. Most of you will think of companies, you'll think of businesses, you'll think of capital, which could be money, although capital isn't really money. It's more goods. It's knowledge, human capital. You think of things like tools and machinery and things like that, don't you? Think about those things, assets, loans. Well, an economy is essentially people. It's the people. The economy is me, you. It's Soram and AGC arguing with each other in the chat. We are all the economy. Even people who aren't working, or maybe on welfare, still engage in the economy to some degree. They still pay something into the system to some degree. What the hell is a critical worker, then? There's no such thing as a critical worker. And if there is a such thing as a critical worker, we're all critical. All of us. Every single one of you. Me, Soram, AGC, Teabag, Andy Burnham, the builders, the nurses, the doctors, the police, the fire brigade, hospitality people, engineers, scientists. We are all of us are important in our own little ways. And in a service-based economy such as England, well, the United Kingdom really, where we don't have a lot of industry, neutering the service-based economy and saying that, you people in shops are not critical workers is laughable. That's terrible. That's stupid. Basically, most of the economy, most of the people who keep us turning a profit year after year can't work. Absolutely ridiculous. The butchers, the bakers, the candlestick makers. Yes, Makuta, you are correct. How does that make sense? It's bollocks. There's no such thing as a critical worker. We're all important, all of us, in our own little ways. Obviously, some people are more important than others. I'm not saying that we're all equally important, but, it's stupid to suggest that in an economy there's some things that are less important. Well, that there's some that are just not important at all and can be jettisoned temporarily. That is. Well, now we've learnt the hard way that that's not the case. Sweden figured that out. They figured out, well, hang on, everybody's important in the economy. We all are. And not only that, lockdowns are bad for mental health. No, we're all critical. We are all critical, Odin. We all are. Because look what's happened. We're all in a deep recession, aren't we? We wouldn't be in a recession if everybody was working. Again, some people are more important than others. But at the end of the day, look what happened. The economy is everybody. Yeah, Netherlands and Sweden Sweden especially is doing fine. But I heard rumours that they might be going into lockdown, Sweden. So unfortunately, the mind virus is going to affect them. Hopefully they're not. Maybe I should look that way. Fuck's sake. Sorry guys, that's unprofessional. But whatever, we're winding the stream down anyway. So I'm just going to double check. Sweden. I just want to double check this actually. I have no idea. Oh, okay, they're easing it. Oh wait, no, the cities are going to face lockdowns. But they will be voluntary. So it's up to the cities to decide if they want to. I don't think they will want to, I think. Oh, but apparently Anders Tegnell says they did not pursue herd immunity, but essentially that's what they did, right? Or maybe it's a political thing, maybe it's rhetoric, I don't know. It sounds like it's herd immunity to me. I'm not saying they didn't escape economic hardship, but they did better than everybody else. They were obviously going to be affected because we weren't buying and selling with them. That's how they were affected economically. But once the world economy is reset, so to speak. Hang on a sec. I've got a thing for that. I've got a soundboard, don't you know? And hang on a sec. Steam needs to turn on. I should have turned this on actually. Oh my god, I wish it was quicker than this. Interestingly enough, those government databases don't tell you how many people die, just how many people get infected. I think the line that I showed you was like the average in the UK, but it doesn't say. It just says 7-day average. Like I don't know what that means. That could mean literally any average. It could be the average in Greater Manchester for all I know. It's like Sweden. They shouldn't. I think they should carry on what they're doing, but as long as it's voluntary, I don't have a problem. So anyway, I've actually forgotten what the bloody joke was going to be. But anyway, so to speak.
So to speak.
Ah, fuck! It didn't work. Oh well. So anyway, we're now at 45 minutes. I'm going to end it. So anyway, thank you all for watching, and until next time, I will see you all again soon.